then the internet window's there. So there's that. There's that. I'm sorry I have so many windows open. I've had some internet issues last night at home that I've been trying to solve. Okay.
Did it work?
Yeah, I got it. Well, no. But I'll talk to them about that later.
The internet can be our friend. It can be our enemy.
It's always my friend, but it's it's kind of like any other friend. Your friend has to be there. So this is Carl Covert. He is our librarian here at the Greenville and the Silver Springs campuses.
That is correct.
And he will be talking to you today about library databases as well as establishing whether or not research is credible, which is becoming very, very important in our society today. So, ladies and gentlemen, Carl Covert. Let's clap. That's what you do when you introduce you. Yes, Carl Covert.
Now remember, he made the class that I gave the presentation to yesterday clap after my presentation. So y'all clap after his presentation.
You don't have to clap for me.
Well, you got onto him for not clapping. He said y'all don't clap when I give a presentation. So y'all make sure y'all do that for him.
Yeah, I said y'all don't clap. I took it. I wanted it.
Did they do it?
They did it.
Oh, yay! They listened to a librarian. Oh my God! I'll have to take.
No, it's crazy sauce. Never happened before.
Never happened again. Anyway, good morning. It's 11 o'clock, almost lunchtime, and so I will. Yeah, lunchtime's not my favorite part of the day, but it's high up there.
Dinner is for me.
Do you have to cook dinner?
I get to cook dinner.
You get to cook dinner. Whoa.
Tonight's tacos, Mexican tacos. Tacos al pastor with cilantro and onion and green salsa. Lime.
Okay, who's going to his house for supper?
I am.
Anyway, welcome. The comedy routine is now over. Serious scholarly communication will now follow. What up here? Student learning outcomes. $10 word for, I'm going to show you how to use the library resources. I'm going to show you how to communicate with PJC librarians through virtual reference desk. Guys, that's just a chat box, okay? But if it sounds fancy, y'all may use it. If I say chat box, you're going to go, God, how old-fashioned. Email. Email's a good thing. I also answer the phone. I also will sit before you. You come to me, I'll be sitting down in my chair, and I will answer your questions too. So, find me, I will help you. That's the thing. Search the PJC library catalog to find books and ebooks. We have about 28,000 ebooks, a few more physical books. So, I'll show you how to access the catalog. If you've had this presentation before, raise your hand. Whoa! How many times?
That's lower than usual.
2 before this.
How many?
One right here, too.
2 times?
This is the second.
Okay, and somebody else raise their hand. 4. So this will be the 4th or the 5th time? 4th. Okay, the record's 5. So there's still hope for you. Nobody's hit 6 yet.
I have. Over the course of.
Do I change the presentation at all? A little bit.
A little bit.
Okay.
Different searches.
Good. Well, generally when I find a good search, I like to keep it because it's a perfect example. Anyway, you had a young man just walk in, so he...
Get some papers. Tell me what he needs, I'll hand it to him.
Well, you don't want to count the poor man absent. Well, you already did. Anyway, then I'm going to show you how to locate journal articles. Then I'm going to show you how to go and do proper internet searching, and evaluate the sources. I should have brought water today. I'm sorry, gang. And hopefully I will improve your information-seeking behavior. Because I have 3 people who've heard this spiel before, I'm going to use new stories and a couple of new search examples. Because they're going to go, oh, God, he's using the same ones. So we'll see what happens. There was here's how this starts. How to access our resources. We click on this button and we go to the home page. Getting worded there for a second now. So we go to quick links, library services. Now, how did you say I'm making it a little bit bigger so that everybody can see. Now, here's the deal. Circulation policies. That's really simple. Books are a month. CDs and DVDs are a week. Now, stating that, if you know where the library is on the first floor over there by the computer, between the computer labs, and we have a small collection there because it's just kind of a small room. But if there's a book that you find in the library catalog that's at the main campus, I'm going to show you how to go and request that book. Now here's the deal. If you get to me early Tuesday or early Wednesday, I can probably have that book here that day. I mean, like, if you get to me before 11 o'clock, I can have that book for you here by 2:30. Okay, because we have, PJC runs the mail every day except Friday. So the library can drop the book to the mail courier. He goes to Sulphur Springs, then here, then back home. So I can get it here that day. Now, remember, I'm only here Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So those other days you may have to wait for the next day. And I'll talk about interlibrary loan in just a second. Well, I'll just do it now. Interlibrary loan. Sometimes your subject, I mean, we have a good collection, but there's always a subject that you may not have a lot on. Now, let's pick on Walt Whitman, because some PhD student was reading the microfilm of a 1852 paper, and I saw a little blurb that got his curiosity up, and he actually discovered I don't know if it was a short story or a poem or something.
It was a collection of newspapers over the course of several weeks. There was a serialized novel that he was writing.
Yeah, and it had never been, he evidently had not published it anywhere else. Mm-hmm. So this man went through a lot of microfilm reading. And let me tell you, I have read the Paris News 1909 microfilm, and anybody that can do the 1852 microfilm is a serious researcher, or even any Boston paper from the 1860s or the London paper from the 1600s. You are a serious researcher to read that kind of stuff.
Does anybody know what microfilm is?
Oh, oh my God.
Well, children, sit tight.
Okay. You know, I didn't think to explain what microfilm was.
I know, it's just so natural for me, but I just realized, I thought, I wonder if they know what it is.
Okay, here's the deal. How do I explain microfilm? I'll try it.
He's going to do it.
Okay, here's the deal. Because space is always limited in libraries. There are certain things, I mean, everybody knows what a camera is, right, gang? You know, the little thing that's on your phone. Before then, there were actually devices that just did take pictures. They were called cameras. And so what people would do was, like the PJC would, we get lots of magazines, lots of newspapers, and what we would do to save space is we would go and make a contract and go, okay, we want you to microfilm the Paris News or National Geographic. And so what would happen is at the end of the year, or generally by January the next year, they would go and send us National Geographic for 2016. So that means we could actually physically throw away the National Geographic magazine, because if you add up magazines, they will pile up. I could actually fill up this room with probably the magazines that we do carry. Because sometimes some microfilm, some companies don't microfilm a certain magazine. Also, it may be a collector's item, things like that. Sometimes they used to bound them. And binding magazines, they just put all the magazines together, all 12 or 24, whatever, and put them in one book. I will bring one next week. Time from 1937. It's about this thick. You can open it up, and that's the magazine for, that's how we used to save magazines. But microfilm did it so we could save space. I have rows and rows of microfilm, and I have 2 microfilm readers where I have 3 that work. Well, take that back. I have 3 that work. No, 1 doesn't work. And see, the problem with that is so old, they can't find parts for it. They can't find parts for it to make it print. See, nowadays they have, and microfilm readers are expensive to begin with. They all start about 10 grand. That's for a really cheap one that will make copies. Nowadays, the ones that they have, you can put your flash drive in there and you can email it to yourself. You can save that page to your flash drive. It's really cool. I hope to get one day. When I win the lotto, I'll buy me one. But, you know, until
I might buy other things if I win the lotto.
I'm a librarian and I'm crazy.
That's true. I mean, you are a librarian, so I guess that makes sense for you.
Well, I didn't say I was going to give it to the library. Buy me one.
You have your own micro. Still.
Yeah, and they're really small now, so I can just carry it wherever I go.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I thought they were still like that giant.
No, they're.
Oh, it was huge.
It's
like
about
like reading like on an old television.
Oh God, yeah, that's a really old one that you can't make copies of. Anyway, microfilm is a way to preserve information. Doesn't have a database. Newspapers don't, but there's one thing called Reader's Guide to Periodical Literature, and what you could do is you can see that it would be Harper's 1938, Volume 1, and then you'd go to the microfilm for Harper's Magazine 1938, and you'd know that it would be in May, page 7.
Let's see.
And then you'd make the microfilm go to that page, then you put it there, and you'd read it on a big screen like that, this big. Let's show again. And then you go, well, this didn't work for me, and then you'd have to go do it all over again. So your database is a lot quicker. I mean, I'm going to show you how to do database searching in under 5 minutes. It used to take us that long just to find the magazine.
Yeah.
It used to take us all day to
find the record.
To find 3 articles. And I'm going to show you how to find about 24 in about a minute. So, yay, I love microfilm. But databases are the way to go, baby.
Yeah.
And I forgot where I was at. Interlibrary loan. Interlibrary loan. Let's say books that we don't have, but you need for your research. You come to Mr. Carver and go, man, I really got this great research topic, but y'all don't carry the book. What do I do? Well, you come to me, and we find a library that has the book. We send the request to the main campus. They email, phone that library, and then they will take that book, if they don't need it, mail it to the main campus. The main campus will send it here, and then you get it. Where I'm going with that long spiel is that don't come to me on Tuesday needing the book for Wednesday's class. Because all that thing I said, it will take us about 10 days to 2 weeks to get the book. I mean, because the people let's say we get a book from UT. They're not going to just go get the book and walk out there and go get the book and mail it. Because they have a lot of people coming asking them for books. So it may take a day or two for them to get it and then get the Works Cited to walk out there, can't find the book. Then they have to go send somebody else to go, things like that. So just don't expect immediate for an interlibrary loan. That's where I'm going with that. But then, of course, databases. This is the one you're going to use off campus because most of the time you're going to be doing research at home. Home is a good place to do research. But then right here is our, see that thing again? Let's see if this is going to work. Okay. Do you have any books on presidential elections? Always spell it right. Let's see what is on. I got it. I'm going to be nasty. Oh, let's just do that. We're going to take any bets that they're going to ask George Herbert Walker Bush or George Bush, because there are two of them.
Just look at Sir George Bush, wouldn't they? Just type in whatever comes up. That's probably what they'll say.
See, but here's the thing about this: when you ask for help, we got an immediate response, which is good. But sometimes we may be answering the phone or helping somebody with a computer question or whatever. We may not be there immediately, so give us a couple of minutes, okay? I know everybody's about instant now, but give us a couple of minutes. Because we have anywhere from 2 to 4 people at any one time watching the desk and, watching this. So, oh, yes we do. Oh, gee, thanks.
What did I say?
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
They also know it's me. So, anyway, right here in the middle. See, they know who it is. Anyway, right here in the middle is if you are, we have apps for our database, Java, EBSCO. They have the 900-pound gorilla of the database world, and we put their apps if you want to put them on your mobile device. So, here we go. Now, databases off campus. Username is your student ID. Password's your birthday. And you get Mr. Green Screen. Now, we're not going to cover all of these, but I'm going to show you about 5 of them. Academic Search Complete, the one we will use. When you take 1302 from Mr. Nichols, remember, he's going to ask you to do criticisms about particular authors or whatever. Bloom's would be a nice one to use. Also, Literary Reference Center is going to be a good one for you. Gale Literature Databases. Net Library is how to access your ebook collections. And Literature Resource Center is going to be good for English. For 1301, Academic Search Complete will work, plus opposing viewpoints for your compare and contrast paper. So let's go here. And it's type in your subject. Let's do Walt Whitman, just to see what happens. Okay, we type in Walt Whitman, and we get 969, which is less than I thought. But Mr. Nichols says he wants scholarly peer-reviewed journals, which means he wants somebody who, with some knowledge of the subject, to have looked at this article. In other words, Ladies' Home Journal is out, Time, Newsweek, Reader's Digest is out. So how to do that? You click right here, and boom, we cut it in half, just about. That's pretty good. Then Mr. Nichols decided to be difficult, and he's never difficult, says, I want current information on Mr. Whitman. So what you can do right here is move this to whatever decade you want or year you want. We're going to do the past 5 years. And 2011 and 82, which is pretty good, don't you think?
Not too bad.
82, but that's still a lot. So we're going to use our friends Boolean operators, which are 3 little words, and, or not. See, let's go with or. I know, Civil War, because he was actually a male nurse during the Civil War. Uh-oh, well, that didn't work very well. Which is why I use it. Not Civil War gives us 72, so it knocked it down 10, which is still too many. Let's go and. 10. That is a good search. Now, out of 10 of these, 3 of these you should be able to use for something. Okay, let's go ahead and pick this first one here, because I'm curious now. Now, right here you can see the abstract, which will tell you if this article is even worthy of being opened. Let's say introduction to a series on the poet is presented, which explore how witnessing soldiers killed during the civil battles of Fredericksburg reshaped his future life and work. Okay, if you're looking at Civil War and Walt Whitman, this one would work for you. So go ahead and click on here. And if we carried this article, this magazine, thank goodness, I thought it would die there for a second. That's why. And this is the way you would find it. Now, didn't you tell me, isn't it down here? Oh, there you are.
Yeah, it pops up.
I knew it would be somewhere. And I will admit that being a male nurse, well, being a nurse in the Civil War was traumatic to begin with, because the doctors at the battlefield were not like your doctors of today. They learned to take off an arm or a leg in about 10 seconds. And I'm a Civil War nut, so I've read a lot on the Civil War, and my mind boggles that they would take over a farmhouse, and there would be tables there, and they would just bring you in, not strap you down, hold you down. The surgeon would have a metal saw, take off your leg, cauterize it, and throw the leg out the window. And then after, the Battle of Gettysburg had what, 40,000 casualties, and so you can see that the arms and the legs would kind of pile up. That just, to me, I cannot. That's something I don't need to see. Visualizing it's bad enough, but seeing a picture of it, I think would freak me out.
Pile of legs.
Yeah, pile of legs and arms. That was. Ugh. And then not to mention the fact that if you ever got into a Civil War hospital, odds are you weren't getting out anyway. Sanitation was poor because gangrene would get you. I mean, just because you cut the arm off, the leg off, or whatever, it sits there and then gangrene and.
That was pre-hand washing, wasn't it?
Oh yes. So gangrene.
Before we realized that was
the surgeon would just be covered in blood. And they wouldn't bother to wipe off the instruments or anything. Just anyway, here you go, because there's not that many surgeons and there's that many casualties.
Still, if it still hacks, still use it.
Ew. Anyway, so you can see how this would affect Mr. Whitman. It would affect me too. Anyway, so here's the article. You decide, man, this is what I need. What you can do is you can print it off. You can email it to yourself. You can save it on your flash drive, or what I recommend is you create a free account and you can save it in a folder. Creating a free account also allows you to access our 27,000 ebooks, okay? So save this article in a folder. It will come back and be of great value to you, because if you print it off like Mr. Nichols and I did when we were in school, and you lose the title page, then you're wondering what the title was, you're wondering who the author was. You've got it saved. You're ahead of the game. I recommend this. Okay, now, any questions about how to do this? Y'all got this? Yes. Good. Well, one thing I'm going to mention to y'all is, let's say that those 10 articles none of them worked for you. I mean, you did a really specific search, it didn't work for you. What you could do is you can see what else this author wrote, and and you can see the journal, so you click on it, and right here, subject terms, you can click on these two and see if it will give you some ideas about how to further along your research. It could broaden that subject by just clicking on. Of course, Civil War right there is rather broad right there. I would write in American Civil War or something like that. Anyway, that's how to do databases in EBSCO. But you're going to do a compare and contrast paper. So you want to go down here to our friend, Opposing Viewpoints. Just because now I'm curious, we're going to type in Walt Whitman just to see what happens. I don't think anything will happen, but it's okay. But look at that. We do have something on Walt Whitman. So we have audio files on him, news articles on him, images, magazine articles on Walt Whitman.
We didn't have anything from yesterday, though, right?
We didn't. I didn't check Walt Whitman yesterday, so. But let's see what we have. 05, 06.
Oh, it's old. Yeah.
And here's March of 2016. But anyway, let's say you're doing your compare and contrast paper on gun control. And you can see gun control laws, legislation, debate. So click on here, and you can see it gives you, I don't care. They want me to give my opinion. My opinion is don't put that in my way. Featured viewpoints. They're going to have a opposing viewpoint. They're going to have a pro and a con, You can see academic journals, statistics, viewpoints, audio files, news articles, images, biographies, reference works, magazines, websites. So this is your one-stop shopping for scholarly information about this. Let's go ahead and click on, there's no easy solution for preventing gun violence. Okay, who are you? Oh, you're a moron. Oh, okay. Alrighty. So,
That's quick.
you like this article. You see citation tools right there. Ooh, I forgot to do that on the other one. I'll do that in a minute. And you can see right here, this one has the MLA 8th edition, which is what Mr. Nichols likes to use. So, not that I would suggest cutting and pasting, but if you cut and paste, this is the way it would work. However, one thing you do want to make sure of is that you check your hacker manual and make sure everything is correct. Even though it's here, check. Anything about this, Mr. Nichols?
Anything about it?
Yeah.
I mean,
8th edition?
it's both. Yeah, 8th edition, definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
We're using 8th edition, so if it has 7th edition, we can't use it. So it's got 8th, so that's good.
Now, I forgot to show y'all something, class, and Mr. Nichols' fault. When you're in this database in EBSCO, click right here, and it will give you the citation format as well. You see APA, you see Turabian, you see Harvard, MLA. Now, the one thing you do need to be aware of, if you cut and paste, that this is going to be the 7th edition. EBSCO has not updated theirs evidently. And Mr. Nichols requires what edition? And what edition is this one?
7.
So what do y'all need to do?
Get 8.
Make it 8.
Make it 8. Make it 8.
He's like, I'm sorry, he was in the moment. He was just feeling. He was with the groove.
Well, but anyway, so I thought I should remind you of that little factoid. Yeah, I had my moments of clarity. Then, online catalog. You can see the different ways we can search. We can search by basic, advanced, power, and look at the different ways we can search under basic. Keyword, title, author, subject. We are not going to cover all of these because who wants to go to lunch at a decent hour? So title. Let's go ahead and pick on Mr. Whitman. And let's see which one of these should. Okay, here's the deal. If you are right here, if you ever see Harold Bloom, that is a criticism about the man's work. About Walt Whitman. It's a criticism about Walt Whitman. So let's go ahead and pick Oldie But a Goodie, number 10. I'm curious about this one. A critical companion to Walt Whitman. A literary reference to his life and work. Now, the thing is, what this does is it tells you where this was published, who published it, the year it was published, subjects, and then 408 pages, location, PJC. Now, this is reference work, so it cannot be checked out. And you can see the column number is PS. PS is for American literature, and then the number loosely assigned to Walt Whitman's birth year. As that is checked in. Reference, you cannot do anything but make copies, so while it was a good example, we cannot use this book. Let's see what this one is. Walt Whitman, okay. You can see the same thing here, same information. It's a very short book, location, shown by LC number. We use the Library of Congress classification system, which means every letter and number means something to that little cataloger. So I've already explained how to use that. K, it's going to be for the author's name. Now, I do remember, y'all have had me a couple times where I say that normally a criticism about an author is going to have a Z. This is a biography, so it's about Whitman by the author whose last name starts with a K. If it was a criticism about the work, that would be a Z there. It would be the Whitman Cutter plus a Z. Now let's say you like this book. You go and request this item. Now this number that it's going to ask you for is not your student ID number. It is going to be a barcode that you get from Maxine or myself when I'm here, and we put it in the system and put this barcode on your student ID. Okay. So, any questions about that? Y'all can do title. Let's do Arthur. Arthur, you know the author of the book you're looking for. Make sure you spell it right or the system will not like you. Walt Whitman. And you can see we have 9 titles. Let's click on them. Selected poems. Selected poems by Walt Whitman. You can see who published it, where it was published, the year it was published, and you can see the call number right there, and then request item. See, author is pretty simple. You know the author you're looking for. Let's go back to basic. You know the subject is the one you're going to use the most because you know what you want to do your research on. So remember, last name first. And you see the different ways we can find works. We can, if we want to see something he wrote in his diary or encyclopedias about him, criticisms. We have 13 criticisms and interpretations of his work. Let's click on them. And you see there's Mr. Bloom. Here's 2 copies of this book. Here's critical essays on Whitman. His poetry, collection of essays. I'm looking for an ebook to see if we have one. Here we are. Oh, I like this title, The Erotic Whitman.
The what?
That's the title, The Erotic Whitman.
Oh, I think you said aquatic.
I didn't know he could swim.
He does write that poem about the cavalry crossing the river, so he's at least been close enough to a river, so he's not scared of the water.
Well, and where was he born?
America.
Oh, narrow it down to the continent.
I don't know. I'm terrible with the biographies of authors.
Anyway, so look at this right here. This is the ebook. You're going, man, this is what I really need. So click on this link, and it'll take you right there to the ebook. So pretty simple, huh? And Mr. Nichols has done us a disfavor here, people. He was born in New York. Now we know.
City? Or Brooklyn?
West Hills, New York.
West Hills, huh? Never struck me as a New Yorker.
Yeah. Anyway, so now we have done title, author, and subject. I'm going to show you advanced. Advanced is really hard, folks. This shows you everything you learned in basic, but introduces you to a concept called limits. In their system, limits are collection and location. Oh my goodness, now we're done. We go to power. Now, you can see everything we learned here in basic, everything we learned here in advanced. And what would you do here? Use subject keyword. Subject keyword is your friend. And we type in Whitman, Walt, and we're going to type in this word, gay, and we're going to go Walt Whitman or gay. 130 titles. Or we're going to type in not. And we got 47 titles. But we use the third one, and, so we're using and or not to broaden or narrow your search results. And we get 1 title. And you can see, Gay Men, United States Biography. So this is how we use Boolean operators. Any questions about how you use our library catalog? Y'all can do this. Yes? All right. They're a good bunch. And they're modest, too.
Modesty is a virtue that I sometimes possess.
Well, why aren't you? All right.
Because I already had it open in there.
Yeah. Online catalog. I've showed you online catalog. I've showed you how to search the databases, and then we have fun with Mr. Whitman. We learned he was born in New York, state of, died in New Jersey. So we didn't move around too far. I showed you the Boolean operators and or not, and can be used to limit a search, or can be used to broaden your search, not can be used to exclude terms you don't need, how to get into the off-campus databases. Now, Mr. Internet, for those of you who have heard this presentation before, I'm sorry. But there's only one way to explain the internet to you. So, I love the internet. The internet gives me access to lots of information. I also hate the internet because it gives me access to a lot of information I don't really need or care about. So what we have done here is y'all grew up knowing how to use the internet, right? So you're just used to it. What you see is what you get. Well, when you're doing scholarly work, you want to use articles that your instructor would, I don't want to say approve of, but you just don't want bad information, on a website. So I'm going to show you how to give you some clues on how to find out some good information.
And if you think you already know this, they've done a study on middle schoolers, high schoolers, and college freshmen of your generation, and have determined that despite thinking they know more about the internet and how to find credible information than people who are older than them, they know less because you've had the internet. So, like, do y'all know what a lobbyist is? You would never want information from a lobbyist. But do you know why?
No, I don't know what it is.
Exactly. So this is stuff you like, oh my gosh. And so listen to everything that he has to say very closely, because he's going to talk about how to find whether information is credible, because people take it for granted these days that they know what's credible and what's not, and they just don't.
Authorship. Let's pick on Mr. Whitman.
Wow.
I mean, he's been dead for 135 years. He's not going to care.
Can't fight back.
Can't fight back. Authorship. Does a website or document have an author? So you're doing a paper on Walt Whitman, and you find something that's got bells and whistles that's just awesome, but you can't find an author. Okay, that's not good. So I love this part where I have to tell you, Google the author's name to see if they have credentials, because even though Walt Whitman, I mean, there's a lot of information on Walt Whitman, and you can just cut and paste and make a really good website about Walt Whitman, or you can just totally make stuff up about Walt Whitman. You don't want to use anything that has not been done by somebody with at least some credentials or credibility, okay? Like if you find a website by the director of the Walt Whitman Museum, that would be a credible source. As long as he's got a PhD in English or history or something like that, some credentials, so he'd be qualified to write an article about Walt Whitman. Not stating that the third graders out of Walt Whitman Elementary don't know a hell of a lot about Walt Whitman, but still, that whole credibility thing. So just remember that. And this just tells you how to try to find the author's name, and if credentials not paid, I already told you that, and check if the author has a homepage that provides expertise. So I've already gone over that. So good, authorship is important. Sponsorship. Now, Mr. Nichols gave you an example of a lobbyist, which was a good example, by the way, because lobbyists are only interested in one thing: promoting their point of view to their client. Well, from their client's point of view to you, or to the politician. Okay.
That's essentially what a lobbyist does. They go to Washington, they badger politicians until they finally will bow down to their concerns. Sometimes they'll offer money, but they're always there arguing.
And they also will give money to that campaign, because one thing that in Washington and for a legislative extent in every state government is that they're always running for re-election. So I'm really big in the Civil War. Mr. Nichols is in Washington, and he's on the Civil War Commission. That's one of his committees. So I'm going to come over here and go, I really like the work you do promoting the Civil War. So here's $100,000 for your re-election campaign. So the next time I come up, I'm going to kind of get, I really want a new museum in Paris, Texas on the Civil War. And guess what Mr. Nichols is going to do? He's got incentive to make a museum in Paris, Texas on the Civil War. Because, you know what? I donated to his campaign, and as long as he's a politician.
I'm in charge of figuring out where everybody else's money goes, and the money that comes to my election campaign, I want to keep that flowing.
Yeah, so he's going to go.
So I'll keep it.
I'll see what
Mr. Lobbyist.
See what I can do for you. And then there's going to be do we really need a Lawrence Welk museum?
Yes, because some people might not know who that is.
Who's heard of Lawrence Welk?
That's why I put my arms down. I was like, I need a museum, so I'll know who he is.
Either I'm dating myself. I hate Lawrence Welk.
Or I just don't know enough about history, which is why.
He was a band. Back in the 60s, they used to have a show called the Lawrence Welk Show, and they would sing and dance and otherwise drive 10-year-olds insane.
Oh, Johnny Carson.
Pre Johnny Carson.
Pre-Johnny Carson.
So
I'm sorry. Conan O'Brien.
Not even that. I don't think he appeared on them. He had his own show.
So before Conan O'Brien, there was a Johnny Carson. Before Johnny Carson, there was Lawrence Welk.
Yeah, and they would just show, he had an orchestra and people would sing and dance, and it was an entertainment, variety show of singing. If I have to explain this, I've lost the moment. But anyway, lobbyist. Somebody with a lot of money got to a politician, and so now there's a Lawrence Welk museum. Anyway, sponsorship. Who sponsors the site? Sometimes you can't find it, but everybody knows what a .com is. .edu is good information. Right here, .gov, good information. .org. The lobbyist is a good example. .org is going to be an organization where they're going to promote their point of view. So the information they have on theirs could be biased, supporting only their point of view. You're never going to hear anything good about a gun from Handgun Control's website. Their idea of a good gun is not having one. And vice versa. NRA's never met a gun they don't like. So you're not going to see an article slamming their point of view. So it's biased. Be careful about using it. Unless, of course, you're doing a paper on bias and using weapons, That would be a good example. Anyway, .mil's going to be good too. Anyway, just remember why somebody sponsored it. Okay, our friend, Purpose and Audience. Why was it created? To argue position, .orgs, sellproduct.com, to inform readers. Well, you could go with .gov there and .edu to give you information. But sometimes there's erroneous information out there. I've seen a lot of erroneous information out there on the internet, but because I read a lot, I look at it and going, I like Wikipedia just so I can see all the errors. So don't use Wikipedia for your research. It's a good idea to get started. Because you type in Walt Whitman, you find out where he was born, like I did, where he died, some of his works. But that's just a starting point for me, because I may not know a lot about Walt Whitman, but it can start me off to where I know more about him than I did, and I can do further research. So just be careful about misinformation. And then we go with who is the site's intended audience? Are you the audience? If you're not, will this information help you on your paper? So there's a lot of good information out there, but there's a lot of stuff out there that if you're not knowledgeable about the internet or that search or that subject, you just may use the wrong information. And then Mr. Nichols will give you, do you give F's or zeros or what? Or you break it down?
Numbers. Well,
we don't want a bad number. I chewed my son for doing poorly on a test, and he goes, "But Daddy," I don't care. Now he studies very hard on his spelling test. And then, of course, currency. No, that's not the $10 bill in your wallet. There's certain information, once you put it on there, it's out of date almost immediately. Nursing, medicine, computer science, sociology, psychology. So if a website or article has not been updated in some time, you might want to wonder why. But stating that, remember, there's some clues here that just because the website hadn't been updated. I mean, it was, the information on there since '09. But they didn't do their research finished doing their research until 1995. So that's a kind of, wait a minute. They haven't updated it since '09. This research paper was done in '95. You might want to wonder about that. Also, now that I've stated about currency, and if it's not current, hadn't been updated, you might want to wonder about it. There's always an exception. History would be a good exception. Okay? Walt Whitman's birthday, pretty much set in stone. His death date, that was just a bad pun. I apologize. His death date, again, tombstone. It's on his tombstone.
Yes.
Set in stone, tombstone.
Oh, golly, I didn't even catch that. I only heard death date. I didn't hear the other one.
Or his birthday. Now, his works that he's done. He's been a volunteer nurse in Civil War. That's all historical fact. The only thing that can change about Walt Whitman's life is the interpretation of some of the things that he did during his life. Like, I'm not a Walt Whitman expert, but probably they didn't write any. Remember that book we found that said gay men biography? Probably 1890, when they wrote a biography about Walt Whitman, they didn't mention the word gay. I would imagine not.
Probably not around that time period.
No. So anyway, but where I'm going with this is information can be used to support or support your point of view. It can just, your interpretation of the facts. It's your interpretation of the facts of his life. That's the only thing that can change in a webpage that hadn't been updated in 10 years about Walt Whitman. So, any questions?
So what are the days that you work? Is that
Tuesday, Wednesday.
Tuesday, Wednesday?
Tuesday and Wednesday. But if you need me on Monday or Thursday, I'm at the Sulphur Springs campus. Just ask Maxine to give me a phone call. If you need me on Friday, I'm at the main campus.
And Maxine is
the clerk who gets here about 8 o'clock in the morning and works till, I'm not sure how long Maxine works.
Oh, at this campus. So you're saying if they need help from you on Sulphur Springs campus, they can go downstairs here and she can call you over there. Oh, okay, gotcha.
Okay, now if you'll fill out the green sheet, I'd appreciate it. No names.
If you've already put your name on it, you can scratch it out very heavily.
Can I get the sheets?
Oh, yes.
Okay, ma'am.
We need a sheet.
Oh, okay. I mean, do you need one? Okay.
Just the green ones?
Yeah.
Evidently.
Oh.
Yeah, we're being quiet, so you're on board. Mr. Nichols, thank you for having me.
You're very welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Carl
No, don't.
Hilbert.
Just for that, I'm gonna make them clap at the end of your class.
At the end of my class?
End of your class.
I love it. I'm going to take it in.
Soak it in. As you can see, we have a good working relationship.
No.
Well, Whitman was kind of fun there, wasn't it?
Yeah. Fun. Walt Whitman. Y'all seen that, y'all watch television, y'all seen that weird, there's like I don't know if it's a Lincoln commercial or an Acura, I think it's an Acura commercial, where you hear something that sounds kind of like poetry in the background while there's some music going. The guy's like quietly reading what sounds like poetry. Well, if you happen to see that commercial, you're like, what's this car commercial with a guy speaking very quietly and serenely, like he's trying to put me to bed? And there's some music in the background. That's a Walt Whitman poem, which I felt very impressed. I saw that commercial and I said, is that Whitman?
I wonder if they paid the copyright. Or is it,
I think that he's beyond copyright now, right?
yeah, I think he is. Copyright's always one of these things that people argue about.
People always find a way to copyright stuff if they can. Copyrighting things that have been free range for years. Oh, is this one yours?
Oh, thank you.
Oh, and this one's mine. So I'm leaving it over here. Okay, so once Carl Covert's stuff has been gathered, we will continue our foray into comparing and contrasting.
Alrighty, I'm done. Thank y'all.
You're welcome. I didn't do so well in the last one. That's well, you did okay with yours. Let's see. We have already gone through all of. Let me see. I want to verify. We've gone through all of this, right?
Yes.
All the way to.
To the end.
We did this, talked about what it is. We talked about this thing, the person, dating somebody point by point. The only thing I didn't read is a book, which I guess I won't. As you can see, you can't see that it's not there. I need to cover at least a few of these, just some examples of comparing and contrasting. Because I realize y'all just heard 50 minutes of the library, which it's not Carl, it's the library. It's just very difficult to talk about library things and have that be super exciting. But I got some videos here where I want to talk about, or I'm going to show you some different types of comparing and contrasting. Sometimes people have a thesis, sometimes they don't. If I talk about just pure compare and contrast, well, let's start out with compare and contrast that's similar to what you're going to be doing with the articles, which you're not going to see any of that stuff done over articles. That's going to be on you. This is kind of like different types of usage of compare and contrast. Lauren, could you pop the two lights off back there? I don't know if they're both on. They are. Oh, we're going to get to the Usain Bolt. We're going to get there. We can't leave the Olympian out. Okay, so this one actually, I'm going to show this one first because this is an example of compare and contrast analysis that would have a thesis. You may not hear the thesis said explicitly, but I clicked it, right? Okay. I don't know what that means. So, does anybody have grandparents ever? Okay, some people have grandparents and they've had some in their history. So, my grandparents, when somebody heard of Turner Classic Movies, the show, the channel that has like all the old movies that you would never watch, that are in black and white. That's what they had before color. In case y'all didn't know, you know that thing y'all can do on your phone where you can turn it black and white. Everything used to be like that. So what happened was, people started getting Turner Classic Movies, and they had these square TVs. Remember the square TVs? This was before they were wide. Well, the square TVs, like the Turner Classic Movie people said, well, we want people to be able to see the whole movie, so we're going to put the widescreen format on the square TV, but it made this black bar at the top and bottom. And everybody's grandparent, if they're like my grandparents, were like calling Turner Classic Movies and complaining, saying, why are y'all cutting off half my movie? I didn't pay for half a movie. And it's like, no, you're seeing the entire movie. It's just it was originally made on a wide format, not a square. I didn't pay for half a TV. I don't want half a movie. Like, you don't understand. You're seeing the entire. So because they had such a problem with this, and people constantly saying, I didn't pay for half a television. And do your grandparents still do that now? With like now they have a widescreen TV, and sometimes the movie is a square. Do they still complain? I don't notice it anymore because the dynamic contrast is so nice that when I turn off all the lights, it looks like I'm just looking at a square TV because the black bars on the side are so dark. Because I guess I bought a really good TV. I don't know. But so they made this entire video just to convince the old people watching Turner Classic Movies that no, you're seeing the whole picture. We're trying to show you one where we didn't cut crap out just so it fit. So essentially their thesis is the widescreen format's better, and you'll hear them basically say that throughout the course of their argument and comparing and contrasting the two and what they offer. You actually have film directors doing it too.
Boxing is a way of using the rather square format of the television screen to create the oblong format of what we call widescreen filming.
The term letterbox is because it looks like a letterbox. So letterbox.
And just take a second, I want to show you like the difference here. That's what happens when they cram it into a square on a TV. That was my alarm. Okay. This is how big it actually is. Watch the difference here. This is what happens when they cram it into a television. Here's how big it really is.
To create the oblong.
That's like way bigger. Like you see how much more, literally like this is a 2.35 to 1 ratio, which means that 2.35 of those squares fits on this wide format, which means that when you're watching that on a square TV and they lop off the sides, that what you're actually seeing is about 40% of the original movie screen image, which is almost nothing. And so imagine if you did 40% of what I want on a paper, I'd say, here's your 40. You'd be like, well, that's not good. Just like this. I'm sorry, I'm passionate about this. I'll shut up.
The term letterbacks is because it looks like a letterbox. It looks like a slot you drop it in.
All films made from 1953 on, for the past 50 years, have been made in one widescreen form or another. Whether it's just normal widescreen or the 70mm or CinemaScope or Panavision.
There are many things that go into the making of a movie. One of those things is the shape of the movie. How wide is the screen? And how does that impact the shots that make up the movie? However, the widescreen process does not fit on the normal television screen. So what is often done is what's called pan and scan, where they lop off the sides.
Pan and scan is when they try to make a widescreen film, a rectangle, fit into a square format on a television screen.
And that is, in a sense, technically, redirecting the movie. Take a film like Ben-Hur, the William Wyler film, The Chariot Scene, which is one of the greatest action sequences ever done in movies. Ben-Hur is driving 4 horses. Very often you'll find that there'll only be 2 in the frame. You lose the effect of all the stunt work in that sequence, which is one of the great climactic sequences in all cinema, reduced to a confused blur.
Horse heads.
I get confused thinking about Ben-Hur, pan and scan. It isn't Ben-Hur, it becomes a whole movie. Images collectively add up to something. They add up to something when one frame contains many elements. Your eye sees all of them, some of them peripherally, and some of them as a point of focus. And collectively, it creates a movie.
Every shot in a movie is thoughtfully composed, and the composition of that shot is approached the same way that a painter approaches the composition of a painting. And when a technician takes a completed movie and pans and scans, he's moving the camera defensively rather than artistically, and violating all the creativity that went into composing that shot.
If you pan and scan Lawrence of Arabia, you lose the desert.
Always wanted to watch this movie, but it's 3.5 hours long.
Are you serious?
No, 4.5 hours long. So, huh?
Longer than that.
Yes. I don't like movies about the desert. I didn't like Mad Max, and it was exciting. So this one right here, oh, it's just so. But I've always wanted to see it.
We spent 2 years making the film. The compositions that are made, the sense of space and being lost in space, and the vastness of it, the isolation of a singular figure, is the dramatic essence of the motion picture. And when you look through the camera, you know that this size communicates and this size doesn't. And so lean shows a size that communicates. Now when you hybrid the section out of this, just the center, you're not getting the experience.
And in the case of a musical, you take a classic film, 7 Brides for 7 Brothers, the choreography and the picture is really composed for the widescreen. It develops character. It takes over the story. And if you don't see those dance sequences in widescreen, you lose what the director and the cinematographer would.
Who are you waving at? Who's she waving at? We don't know. Grandma. Just have the widescreen.
As a part of the story, you blow up part of the frame so that the faces of the actors are a little fuzzier. They aren't as clear because you're enlarging the frame. You don't see the full frame on widescreen. You lose the emotional impact of the picture.
Imagine The Last Supper, let's say, to take an obvious.
This is the best example to me that he uses. Y'all know the Last Supper, the painting of Jesus and the apostles, right? Watch this.
Example, do you care if you see 6 disciples or 12 disciples? You know, you're still seeing Jesus in the middle, but you wouldn't be seeing 6 of the disciples and how they react.
Yeah, what do the rest of the disciples matter, right? We've got Jesus in the middle. We got a square. It fits. Why do we need the rest of the disciples? I think many of you would understand that the disciples are all important. So, look at there.
Well, that in fact is what happens with Panda Scan.
And I say, invented shopping. It's plain as it can be. They tell you what.
Look at that. She's talking to the wine. It's like a little baby. You know, it's showing that intimate relationship with the wine. It has a whole lot of meaning, but it's off screen. Now all we see is this man over here trying to get this old lady drunk for who knows what. That's exactly what's happening. Watch, he's like, drink. As far as I understand, I think he's trying to steal from her or something, so he's got to get her drunk. I don't know.
You're seeing the entire story.
As we are tonight.
So, I mean, you can see the thesis there is widescreen is better than full screen. I mean, it's doing a much better job at what it's. So, the square TV, you don't want to fill up the whole screen if you're missing the rest of the movie because it includes important information. It's very necessary to understanding the full extent of what you're watching. Then I wanted to show you too, really kind of the thing that I don't want from you, but a lot of students try to do, which is to just compare and contrast the two things, or like provide data about what each one is, and which would show the differences, but then not talk about those differences at all, or try to make some statement about what it means. This next video does that. It just gives you raw data, and you have to do all the thinking about it. I want you to actually have a thesis, though. So this guy does it. It's a man versus dog food eating competition. See who wins. You can always tell. You can always tell when the dog's done because he'll always look at the other guy's plate. You gonna eat that? Let's see. Done. 3 carrots.
The dog just gave up.
He doesn't. I don't think he thinks that's food. He's like, "Where's the food? There's no food here. I see a plate, but no food." It's almost like it's camouflage. What is this? Yeah, go man. You can tell by the look on his face, that's not the result he expected. There was only like, 10 Sour Patch Kids on the plate. So I think he was expecting to win that because that's why it included so few, not realizing a dog would eat Sour Patch Kids. Oh, poor guy. But I think he expected the dog to win anyway because look at the next item.
More Sour Patch Kids.
No! Full disclosure, I don't even know if this is safe. I'm going to assume that's not first-person knowledge, but I'll trust you. I've eaten hard dog food before when I was a kid.
Yeah, but who hasn't though?
Some of their snacks are really good, like the treats. Some of those treats you buy, they're actually tasty. The beef and cheese Olroy that comes in little packages. I ate some of those when I was little. That stuff's pretty good. Tastes like beef and cheese. I mean. By the way, have not eaten that recently. What?
Looks like it's about to roll.
The dog one? So you see what it does at the end here. It provides the results. Dog 4-1. What is this actually? What statement does it make? So be very careful here as to what you answer. What statement does this try to prove to us about man's ability to eat compared to dogs?
We can't eat as fast as dogs, not as fast.
No, it's not making any point at all. It's just showing us data. Like he didn't have a thesis at the end. So, well, what we learned, guys, that's completely on us. We're coming up with that on our own. So if we were to see this information and then we make that assumption of it's trying to show us that, dogs, they eat much faster. They're, maybe we say like they have a higher survival instinct than we do, so we don't have to eat as fast. We feel safer most times. Those are like a thesis that we're adding to it, which is kind of what I'm asking you to do with the newspaper anyway. And now the way I want you to, I don't know why I just escaped out of that. What I want you to do when you're thinking about the two articles you have, I want you to look at it from different perspectives. Remember he talked about, and I talked about as well, authorship, like who wrote it, sponsorship, who funded it, the audience, who are they intending the audience to be when they're publishing it, as well as, to me, even location, where is it published. He said currency, which is important, but I'm talking about establishing like bias. Why are they writing like they're writing? And so I want you to be able to look at these from different perspectives. I want you to think not just from your normal I'm me perspective, but other people who, why might they write what they're writing? Why might people around them read what they're writing? That kind of thing. And so this kind of shows a difference of perspective in this Usain Bolt video. He's loud. I forgot.
Just how fast was Usain Bolt's gold medal sprint? Let's put him on a slightly bigger stage and see him race against every Olympic medalist since 1896. This imaginary race, assembled using runners' average speeds, reveals just how much faster sprinters have become. A few lanes over, we see another Usain Bolt, who dominated the field in Beijing in 2008. Almost 10 feet back, Carl Lewis, gold medalist in Seoul in 1988. He won in 1984 too, one of just a handful of sprinters on this track twice. As we go further back in time, we pass more of the fastest sprinters in history. Jim Hines, the first man to break 10 seconds in the Olympics. Jesse Owens, who won 4 golds in Berlin in 1936. Archie Hahn, Milwaukee Meteor, who won 3 events in 1904. And finally, near the end of this track, we have Tom Burke, who won in Athens in 1896. His time, 12 seconds, puts him more than 60 feet behind today's winner. So what can we take away from this picture? For one, a lot of these sprinters are from the US. Although Americans have had a rivalry with British sprinters, and, more recently, Caribbean athletes, nearly half of these runners are Americans. But we can also see the glory is fleeting.
So he's comparing to like different nations.
These performances are rare. There's been a new winner on the podium in all but 3 Olympics. But to get a little bit more perspective, let's see how some of America's best young sprinters would fit into this group. Here are the fastest kids at the 100-meter dash at different ages, as recorded by the Amateur Athletic Association. Obviously, they're way behind today's athletes. But they're not as far behind as you might expect. America's fastest 8-year-old did the 100-meter dash in 13.5 seconds, which would have put him less than a second off 3rd place in 1896.
Is this the class where I showed the star comparison video?
Yes.
Where like it was the size of the planets and the stars?
Yeah.
And I told you, like, did I tell you at the end, like, I didn't like the math equation they had to make it seem really big?
Yeah.
Because that was stupid. Again, here, tell me when the youngest would have gotten 1st place. It's like, it would put him a second off bronze. I don't care. Tell me, like, oh, the fastest 11-year-old would have won gold in 1896. That's what I want to know. Gold. I'm an American. I want to know who wins, not who could have got 3rd. I mean, this isn't Britain. We're not as satisfied with not winning. This is America. But if you look, you can see fastest 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old, And it looks like an 11-year-old could have won the gold in 1996. That's hilarious.
Not bad for grade school. And the record for 15 to 16-year-olds is a 10.27. Good enough for a bronze as recently as 1980.
But a 17-year-old could have won an 80.
It's not like those Olympians were slow. Despite more than a century of improvements in nutrition, fitness, footwear, and track surfaces, the difference between today's athletes and the fastest humans of the 19th century? Just about 3 seconds.
This is crazy. We spend so much, people spend like their entire lives trying to go that fraction of a second faster. Isn't that crazy? So they're looking at all kinds of stuff there. They're looking at just the runners who've won, and they're comparing them to like the fastest young people at that time, comparing them throughout history to other nations. Looking at the data from different perspectives, so that when you're writing your paper and when you're coming up with your thesis, why are these two articles written differently? You're thinking from multiple perspectives, so that you can actually really find out why each article is written the way it is, so that makes your thesis more compelling. And we'll talk more about this kind of stuff next week. Thank y'all. Have a great weekend. He says on Wednesday at 12:15. I gotta go through the whole lesson tomorrow in the class. People write the way they wrote. Yes.
Would you like that just included it at the end?
If you can get it to go throughout, that always seems to be the best. If you can have it mentioned like paragraph by paragraph, and so it's always on your mind, you can tell it's always part of what you're writing. That's the best way to approach it. It's so rare people do that. That I still haven't got a really great example of that to show, because I don't think anybody, I've had maybe 2 students ever do it. And one was on such a common topic that I didn't want to make the sample paper that, because I was afraid that if I made that the sample paper, then everybody who ever writes about abortion now is going to be mostly trying to rewrite this article. And nobody likes writing about debates, unless there's a sample paper on it, in which case. So I just said nobody can write about debates anymore. There's so many considerations I have to have in choosing a sample paper. But yeah, the best papers definitely do mention throughout and talk about it constantly, why each one's written differently. Additionally, down at the bottom, I've provided a MLA 8th edition updated Works Cited. So I have one that's I just want to have 2 examples for you. So one of the examples is just a newspaper article from the internet. So you can see it's got name of author, article title, newspaper title, the date it was published, and the web address itself. And then I got one from the databases, which for the most part I just copy pasted this. So I didn't have to make any of this on my own, whereas this one I had to build this from scratch on my own. This one I just mostly copy pasted. The only difference is I had to make one change because of my preferences. This is my preference for all of you as well. I don't know if you remember from the MLA PowerPoint when I mentioned a document identifier. It's within a database. So if it's something that comes from a database, they generally have some sort of document identifier that will allow you to go directly to that article in their database, kind of like it's a barcode for their database. Gale has that, as well as Academic Search Complete. But originally it had the access date here when I copy pasted it, which isn't required in the new MLA, an access date. So I got rid of that and instead replaced it with the Gale document number, which is at the bottom of every article. Resume. I do plan on showing you this again, but I wanted you to see, if you start looking on the... I know it's really easy, guys, to do this. What's something that happened in the last 6 months? Let's just say, because it's easy, it's not a debate, but Trump elected president, right? So Trump elected president. So at least I'm not doing the debates, but you can find articles this way. Then you're like Google. Then you're like, boom, U.S. News. Boom, New York Times. When you've got this, you're now going to have to, let's say that we use this article and do a Works Cited, right? Works Cited. You're going to have to build the citation. So here I have U.S. News and World Report. Let's see. I can just take the information as I get it. So Gabrielle Levy, comma, Gabrielle. Article title, Donald Trump seals presidency. Hey, that should not be capitalized. I'm just not going to do it. With Electoral College win. From U.S. News and World Report, is that right? U.S. News and World Reports. Let me fix this real quick. Needs to be a hanging indent. Special hanging indent of a 1/2 inch. There we go. Remember, once the Works Cited thing starts to pop up when you're watching the video, remember, he showed me how to do that hanging indent thing. That's where okay, there it is. Because that's one of those easy things to forget. U.S. News and World Reports. What else does it have to have? Oh, it needs to have the date it was published, which is (19th, 2016). And the web address, as long as it's small enough that it's doable. Good. And then Control Z so that you don't make it a link because it's not supposed to be. Now I have with the period. Is it going to do it again? Yes. Control Z. I don't know if you know, but Control Z will undo automatic changes, like the most recent automatic change. That's why I did Control Z. So that's if I do it this way. You notice that if I just know the knowledge and have the thing next to me, that's a lot easier than what a lot of students are telling me that they do, which is, to me, a lot harder. Bib.me. Students have told me they use this. Okay, apparently that's been sold. Works Cited help. Easy bib. There we go. Like, let's do this one. MLA 8. That's what you all need to do. It's okay. So get all 59. Okay, website. That's what I'm doing. Cite a website by doing its URL and searching for it. Oh, maybe it has gotten much better than I remember. I thought. Let's see. Cite this. I didn't realize you could just put the. Yes, that's the one. Cite this. Website title, U.S. News and World Report. Yeah, Donald Trump seals presidency, Electoral College, U.S. News and World Report, December 19, 2016. Date access, not relevant to me. Gabrielle Levy. Continue the final step. And then you have to look at all this stuff and make sure that it's okay. Contributor, yes. Author, website title, publisher, sponsor, U.S. News World Report. That kind of stuff. Sure. Yeah, no, I didn't find it anywhere else. Let's create citation and see what it looks like. Levy, Donald Trump seals, U.S. News World Report. Usually if you have a newspaper, it's implied that they're also the sponsor, so you don't have to... If there's nothing different for the sponsor, you don't need this, so that's wrong. Then we've got this and an access date, which I don't require, so you have to remove that. So it's possible that you can do it with this. I didn't realize you could do that now. That actually makes it a lot easier. You just have to delete a couple things instead of everything. But it has to be able to view that article and know what it is and be able to find that information, which I guess algorithms are getting pretty good at. So I guess that is an option. Used to, you had to enter all that stuff manually. So by the way, if you use, this is why I would suggest not using the references tab and the MLA function on Microsoft Word. and it doesn't even have 8th edition. Nope, 7th edition. So it doesn't even have the right MLA. So if you try to use the Microsoft Word version of it, it's not going to work. So if you say insert citation, add new source, it's going to ask you to manually put in things like author, title, year, city, publisher, medium, and it's working on the wrong system of MLA anyway. So it's not helpful. So I wouldn't use that. Now, if you use the databases, notice that I had to make this citation like this for this article, right? Now I got to go back. Now let's say I find another article and I'm thinking about it. So I click it. Then I go through the whole scenario again. And I've got to build it on this website. There is the databases though, and he may have rushed past this really quickly. But for the most part, everything's right on the databases, and you have an access to. I mean, you're going to have to go through. It's going to be against your natural instincts, but you're going to have to go down the page and continue to find news article after news article on a Google search. Time, CBS News, USA Today. And why don't you say, okay, well, how about I would prefer to not see just the big papers that pay the most advertising money so that they get to the top of the Google results. I want to see everything in order of date. So let's do tools with settings, search settings. Can I sort by date?
I think it was on the actual.
Tools. This? All results? No, it just tells me a range. Results verbatim. Tools? Oh, that was the tools. So I want to arrange it by date, but it's not giving me that option. Like I want to sit, huh?
It has a range. You can do a custom range.
I can do a range?
Yeah, go back to
No, what I'm saying, I can do a range, but I can't just order everything from the very first article that was ever published on Trump and his election till now.
Oh, no.
Like it's gonna make me choose a couple months in there, like a year, and then it's gonna show me all the relevant articles in order of relevance during that time period, but not by order of date. So there's no way to actually sort it where it'll tell you this one was written on this date, then the next one was the next day, and so on and so forth. Right. And so if you're looking for a time period of difference, you're going to have to hope that you can notice that on your own. Now, there's a little differences on the databases. So if I go to, and it's our main website, and you click quick links, or you hover over quick links, then you click library services, which this is recording on the video, so you could always go back and watch me do this. Then you can't click databases alpha or databases topic. You have to click on the left side, databases off campus, because every computer, unless it's on the main campus in Paris, attached through a cord, is considered off campus. So you have to click off campus. Then your student ID and password, just like on Blackboard, it's different for me. Anybody happen to notice? Zoom. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to log in. And the one I think is easiest to use for news articles, or the best one to use for news articles, is the Opposing Viewpoints Resource Center. But you can use Academic Search Complete as well. But I think it's still on MLA 7th edition, whereas Opposing Viewpoints has been updated to the 8th. So if I go here, and I say, by the way, if you don't even know like what your interests are in, and you don't even know events that are happening in the world, this page can sometimes tell you some of that stuff, or you can see the #1 article that's up here, or if you want to browse different issues that are important to you and find events that happen within that, it's got all kinds of issues going on in the world. Now remember, you can't just find 2 articles written about the same issue. It's got to have an event tied to it, so you will have to do extra work there. But if you know, wow, I'm really interested in human genetics, let me look at the articles that are on human genetics. And you can always go down to the news section. Notice there's 4,100 articles on genetics. And that's something you're not going to see as easy of a response on Google. It's not going to tell you directly how many articles do we have on this subject. It's not going to say. It'll say 40 billion results. And you're like, oh, yeah, I'll just go through those. Or retype my search and hope that I get what I wanted on the first page again, which is what we do with Google. But you don't approach databases the way you approach Google. So I'm going to go back up here and use that same example from before. Trump elected president. I'm going to hope that there's some kind of news articles here. It's even got magazine articles. Now it tells me fairly directly, based on the things that I typed in, it has 237 news articles, which is probably on the light side. It's because they don't have a subject heading for it in that area I just showed you. Because it makes no sense to me that they would have 4,100 articles on genetics, yet 230 on. I bet if I just typed Trump, I'd get a lot more. $3,440, I was right. But if I'm really just wanting Trump election, then I probably will go with this. Then I'll click the news articles, and I have many options here, which you don't really have on Google because the database is set up to help you with research. I can limit the search by just Donald Trump being talked about, President of the United States, which it looks like it's going to limit that a little too much for me because sometimes I like to see a bunch of different articles. It's got brief articles and it's got articles. So I'm going to go ahead and click articles because the brief ones are only a paragraph long and it's impossible to write a paper on those. So I'm going to just say I want articles. I'm not going to narrow it down to a publication title, but I do kind of want, see I've got November 9th, November 17th, February 11th. It's all kind of over the place. And I'm like, well, I want to look at maybe something close to when it happened and then something a couple months later just to see, because that sounds interesting to me. So if instead of sorting by relevance, I sort by date. One thing they don't do, which I wish they did, which Google does a lot better, is you can only click page through 5, and then it'll only let you click a range of 5 pages when it says that there are 1 through 20, 164, about 8 pages worth, and sometimes it's even more. Sometimes there's like 50 pages worth, and you can only do 5 at a time, which is annoying. So that's one thing that Google has on it. But the most recent article written, it looks like, is, you know, that sounds unlikely. 2011, I'm going to say that's weird. But now it's in decreasing order of date. Now, why it has, this must not have a date attached to it. So right-wing group builds media empire. So I might want to go a little closer to the date itself. What day was he elected? Am I know? November 20th? Cemented his election as U.S. president Monday. Well, I thought that after he was elected president, so November 9th, which I can probably verify quickly on Wikipedia. I don't know. As long as I get close to a date range, then I can find it. So what was that? So November 16th is still within that. And so look, I've already got some great stuff here. So I got this won't do for democracy. I know I'm going to get some angry opinions there from one side. Now if I can go find some stuff from the other side. Oh, it's so hard to find articles. I'm just going to tell you, like right now I'm going, I don't know about this, I don't know about that. And see, I might not even want to focus on like a difference of political parties. Like this one right here is talking from the perspective of late night talk show hosts, which as far as I know, most of those have their production basis in New York. So that might be a reason that they're focusing on that aspect of Trump's election, which is strange. And then I've got the Globe and Mail of Canada, which might have a more slightly removed tone or more of a liberal tone, because I think their policies tend to be a lot more liberal than ours. So let's see what it said. After vote, accounts of racism abound. They're focusing on racism, because they're focusing on this is bad for the world because we're more of a liberal society up here in Canada. So I mean, you can see that there's all kinds of different reasons for approaching essentially the same topic in a completely different way. depending on what you want to do with it. And you'll probably end up saying something like, well, this comes from Canada, which is more of a liberal society, whereas this one comes from New York, which has a lot of interest in the late night talk show variety area. So that's why they talk about this here, and this is why this is talked about here. But if I click here and just show you one example, like let's do New York Times. I've got the article here, and it's kind of easy to read. Additionally, I can download that article, and this is the difference, the folder thing I was telling you about. With the folder, you have to hope that you have access online to the folder. If you lose access online, you go home to the country and your internet's down. No internet, no folder, no nothing. But if you click download on the articles that you want and you say download it in PDF, which will open on any computer basically, it'll then open up a window. Well, I mean, on a Google Chrome, it'll automatically download to your downloads folder in most cases. But I can put it in my downloads folder, and I'll say, usually I like to put as much info as I can, so I'm going to put, who wrote this article? Does it say? Not yet. Anybody happen to notice? It's written by Dave Itzkoff. In fact, there it is right there. I'll just do that. So let's see, download, PDF, download. And I can say Itzkoff. Guess who else didn't expect Trump to win late night hosts New York Times? So I can save that article now in a folder specifically for me. Now I've got it. So if I go off the internet, I've still got it, which is, I think, much more preferable, because then I can at my home computer go, oh, boom, let's pull this up, still have the article, which makes me a lot happier. And in some instances on this database, it actually will show you the article in the way that it originally looked in the paper, depending, which is, you know, sometimes pretty useful. And also every single article, you'll have that saved too, automatically. But every single one of these articles is going to have a citation at the bottom with only one minor change you need to make. I like to make it look a little simpler when it comes to the database ones. So let's say that I do a, not file, no, don't do, home, paste, merge formatting. I don't need the big long, all I need is links.galegroup.com/ through to the, and I don't really need the other stuff. I mean, you can get rid of this long other crud. I don't need all the weird designations of random letters. I don't need the access date. But I do prefer to have at the ends that Gale number, this one right here, the document number. And then I would paste it special. Dadgummit. Home, paste, merge special, period. In fact, I still think this is too long. I don't like that. It's ugly. There, that's about all I need. And then the rest is fine. You can keep that the same way as it is.